Hey everybody, this is Dave from Grow in the Home Garden. Today we are going to be transplanting tomato plants into core pots. These are core pots which are made from coconut husks, and they're about 4-inch size pots. See how deep they are there? And they are great for using for vegetable transplants, using for tomatoes, peppers, and things like that. Now I like using them in the intermediate stage, so I've already got some seeds started, and we'll move over and take a look at them. Those are a jalapeno pepper from 2013. I saved the seed in a refrigerator. They can really last a long time. They look great right now, but I'm starting to see some yellowing in the leaves, which really means I need to get them into their own pots and separate them all out. I'm also going to do some of these tomatoes here, which are looking nice and healthy. They're getting a little long and leggy, but I can correct that through the transplanting process. And these are the yellow gooseberry tomato. So watch and I'll show you the steps along the way as we go through and transplant these, or what you could call upsizing, into another stage. This is one stage before we'll actually put them in the garden. Now when you're doing this, you need to have some good soil to put it in. This is a mix of some compost type soil with some perlite and a few wood chips and things like that in there to make a nice porous mixture that the plants will enjoy. You can add some additives to it, like some garden fertilizer. I usually go for something organic that I'm sure the plants are going to enjoy without overdoing anything. I keep it fairly balanced, somewhere around the 4-4-4 or 3-4-3 ratios for NPK. So over here I've already taken out the peppers, and you can see what the roots of that look like. And to separate this, I'm just going to gently break up the root ball, real gently, because I don't want to damage anything. And I've probably left them in here a little bit too long, but they're pretty tough plants, and I can pretty much separate them out without fear of harming them. See there, I've got some of that done. So now you can see the peppers I've got separated out, and you see how much they have in roots. Okay, so there are a total of 11 peppers in that one little pot. Looks like there's an extra one there. I won't plant that, but some are small because they've been underneath the others. They didn't germinate first, but then some are pretty good size, and they've got some really good roots on them. So the trick with them, and a lot of people don't really talk about peppers like they do tomatoes, but pepper plants actually can grow just like tomatoes do. They'll grow roots all along the stem area. So when I put them in a pot, I treat them just like I would tomatoes, and I bury them in deep. So I'll put them in that deep all the way up to where the leaves are, and then I'll bury that whole thing with potting soil. And what's going to happen is all the stem is going to end up creating a nice root system. And then when I go to put it in the vegetable garden, I'll bury it again as deep as I can, and I'll limb up all the leaves off of it, and it'll just have a really nice set of roots to grow on. Okay, so now I've gone back and I've filled up that pepper plant with some soil and got it all set to go. So I'm going to do that for the other 10 pepper plants that I have here and fill them up into these core containers. Now in the case of the really small peppers, I'm going to bury it as deep as I can up to the leaves so that they're at the very top of the soil. But obviously I can't bury them all the way down, or the leaves will just be completely covered. So I just kind of hold it in place and then backfill with the soil out of a secondary cup or trowel, whatever it is you're using. So here now I've got 11 jalapeno peppers all potted up. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pot up whatever tomatoes I've got in here. We'll count those here in a minute. And then fill up this tray with the 2 of them, and then I'll come back and I'll water them. So here's some of the root system of the gooseberry tomatoes. Now, gooseberry are kind of a cherry style tomato, yellow in color. And I started these are some of the first ones I started this year, just because our family has been eating a lot of cherry tomatoes and salads and things like that, and the kids like them, so it's good to have them around. But you'll notice here that some of the root systems, well, those didn't separate too well, but some of the root systems are a little small, and we definitely want to get those growing on bigger. So we're going to try to grow those through the stem area by doing the same technique we just did on the peppers, and transplanting them into more core pots. Okay, so moving on to the tomato plants, I'm going to take this tomato and I'm going to put him all the way down there in the bottom, and then I'm going to backfill as I go, just to fill all the way up to the lower leaves, and I will pull off any extra leaves that might be under the soil level, because those aren't necessary. We don't need them anymore anyway. Alright, so I've gotten these tomatoes all put in here, and you see that they're starting to wilt a little bit. It is 80 degrees right now, which is a little hot for doing this, but it's the temperature it is. But I am in the shade, so that helps. But anyway, the next thing I did is I used these 1020 flats, and on the underside of them I've got one that doesn't have holes in it. So I've got two flats nested within each other. I'll move over here so you can see that, just like this. And so I've got the upper flat that has holes, lower flat doesn't have holes, so it will retain the water in there. And when I'm ready to pull them out, I just have to remove the one flat from there and they'll be fine. But this way allows me to do some bottom watering, so I'm not having to go right on top of the plants. I'll initially water over them and water into each pot so that the pots are nice and moist, but then I'll start filling from the bottom, so I'm not actually putting any water on the leaves. So that may help with a little bit of fungal issues and things like that might come along. Alright, so I'm just going to very gently water into each of these pots here. As gently as I can anyway with this watering can. It's not the greatest one I've got here. Make sure that every pot gets a little bit of moisture to it. Very slowly, and I'll come back around and I'll probably do it twice on each pot to make sure that they all get plenty of moisture. And then I'm going to backfill the pots themselves, or the planter, the 1020 trays, with the water. So I'll just fill that up, and then I'll fill that up over here. Now see, I got a little extra room here. I'm not putting anything else in them right now, because if I do, I will get mixed up as to what they are. So the next step, ideally, would be to get them labeled. And you can do either typical labels that you buy, or you could take like old mini blinds and cut them up. I've done that several times before. And in a situation like this where I've got them all kind of in one flat of the same type, I'll just label one in each potting area. But you notice I do have some standing water there that's going to get absorbed very quickly into the other pots, and then they're all going to get to enjoy that. So the next step that I've got to do is I need to move them over to the greenhouse and put them in there for a bit. Another thing I wanted to mention was that you don't have to use coconut pots, core pots. You can use any kind of biodegradable pot like this. There's cow pots out there. There's also peat pots from a number of manufacturers. You can use plastic if you want to, but the drawback to it, I find, is you have to mess with the roots again. You have to pull them out of the pots and put them back in the soil. With these, and I'll show you in a few weeks when we're ready, but the roots will be coming all out the bottom of that pot, and it will have no trouble acclimating to the new soil that it goes into. So I just really like using a biodegradable pot, and these coconut pots are really good for that. So they're going to be down here. Like I said before, I'm going to put up some shade over top of this and go from there. I hope that was helpful to show you how I do my tomatoes and peppers and upsize them into new pots. If you want more information on it, go to the link in the description. It'll take you to my blog page where it's got more information about what I just did. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching and subscribing every time you do. Have a great one.